Hey everybody, happy Friday night. Today is May 24th, 2024. It's Memorial Day weekend out here in the States. This is Across the Pitch. I am Mike Barrera, joined by my two buddies, the birthday boy himself, Dave Miller, and Jose Nunez. Dave, I got to go to you first, man. How has your week been? How have you been?
Yeah, I mean, just normal, typical week, really. Looking forward to the game tomorrow night. Obviously, a big game against Charlotte, and Union are back to winning ways. Maybe they're just a team that can only play on the road. I mean, who knows? But you're looking forward to the game tomorrow. I mean, the Phillies are, you know, on, on like a hot streak at the moment. They're just like heat-seeking missile. And the Union off the back of a 3-0 win, hopefully can back it up in Charlotte.
Yeah, today in honor of the Phillies, I'm rocking my Chase Utley, little
Hell,
Chase Utley jersey today. You can't really, this is throwback here. Jose, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well for all the grammar and spelling folks out there. I'm doing well, enjoying finally being or watching the Union be in winning ways, right, against the New England Revolution, not the Revolution's victory. Very happy to see the Union sort themselves out, albeit credit to them, but albeit a man up for all of 77 minutes, which is, something that we don't often see the Union take care of, right? Often when they go with a man up, we I know in our group chat, we often text, oh shit, here we go. It's going to be just a low block and the Union won't be able to crack it. So it's good to see. And also so good to see two names missing from the injury report. Jose Martinez is missing, and so he should be available, as well as Quinn Sullivan, no longer on the injury report. So I don't know what that really means. I don't know what child labor laws are like in reality. So could he feature? I don't know. Could he feature on the roster? Maybe. I don't know. It just something that jumped at me as I'm looking at it right now.
We will see. Our friend Grace joins us tonight. Grace, thank you for stopping by to chat with us. Listen, it's I missed the game last week. This is the first game I missed all season because I was at the Sum 41 concert, having a great time with my high school buddy Dave, rocking out. And I saw the scores on my phone, and I was like, okay, maybe I need to miss the game again this weekend to keep the momentum going. So what I'm going to do is I actually might miss the game. I might have to watch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put Sum 41 wherever I'm at, and maybe just ignore the game. And if they win, then I just can never watch a game again. That's basically what it comes down to. So, but we have a lot to talk about. The one thing that you mentioned, Dave, a bit, which is very bizarre for us as Union fans, is the fact that we are undefeated on the road. I can never remember a time when this team has ever been good on the road, period, let alone undefeated for this long of a stretch of time. What do you make of that, Dave? Because we've seen this team almost have mental lapses. Well, not almost. They have had mental lapses throughout the season, but yet somehow they can muscle it together on the road. What do you make of that weird stat there?
I mean, that's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, the Union lost four straight at home, and then you look at the last three road games. They scored 7 goals in 3 games. Admittedly, 2 draws against Atlanta and DC United, but again, they scored then 3-1 against the Res. But I mean, I don't know. It's a weird one. Maybe because teams are a bit more open at home. Maybe it gives the Union more space to like work around and work with when attacking going forward. God, that's a weird one. Maybe I think Jose probably might, and it probably has been the case for the Union for a while now. But I mean, there was that whole big thing when Aston Villa first came back into the Premier League, and why they were so good away from home as opposed to at home is because when they were at home, they were forced to take the initiative when perhaps they weren't that sort of team. Whereas when you're playing on the road, you can sort of allow weight to pick apart teams who have pushed forward and overcommitted. And again, you probably saw that with mentioned now, you saw with the into the Revs game, New England game, the red card. I mean, again, like you latched onto that moment, waiting for that one mistake or for that one lapse of concentration to really apply the press or apply the pressure. Carranza pounces on that loose. Well, don't know how the guy who got sent off was doing to try and control the ball, or whatever. But he's away, uses his pace, and gets brought down. And with the defender in the last month's red card, like. You perhaps don't get those instances on the road, or at home, sorry, but you perhaps would get on the road where teams probably feel like they have that bit more of a license to take more risks, as we sort of saw with that, whatever the hell they were doing. I mean, no disrespect to the Revs, you could argue with stuff like that going on this season. You can't really argue as to why they are bottom of the conference. That's what they are doing.
Dave, I'm just going to say, fix your mic a little bit. I'm losing it there, buddy. But
You
Jose,
came in
can you
a
go
little
from there?
muffled. Yeah, I can pick up from there. Listen, I think one thing that must not be lost on any Union fan and even press members like ourselves is after that win in Foxborough against New England, that meant that was the team's first victory since April 6th and first clean sheet since March 30th. So 2 big gaps of achieving both. Never mind both at the same time. So I think that's a positive, though. Again, Ryan Spalding for New England earning himself that red card on a weird foul where, I know Mikel Ua's got Jets, but I don't know, the way that the ball was angled going, it almost felt like I would have it, again, easier said than done, but if I was Ryan Spalding and having studied Mikel Ua is typically not the best touch, especially on a full sprint. That ball could have gone outwards. Yeah, it could have been a little bit outward on a second touch, and maybe the angle would not have been as good as going head on onto the net. So it is what it is. And then the other thing that I guess maybe gets overlooked on that victory against New England is that injury to Jose Martinez so early on, 28th minute change, right? That I mentioned to the guys of the Min City Soccer Show, Dave and Don, and I know Matt was busy. Great guys. Please go listen and chat with them.
They are.
But Jack McGlynn completely flipped that game upside down. And sure, you can argue that they were a man up and whatnot, but Jack coming in and using that left foot and look no further than that first goal that Carranza scored, which then goes ahead and hits the cleanest gritty I've seen in a long, long time. An incredible left-footed pass in between players, right? It was a spectacular ball. And Val, to your question, Jim, and it seems like he is okay. Having just looked at the injury report, Jose is not listed on there whatsoever. So I assume that based on Jim's comments during the press conference on Thursday, which I found a little fascinating, they're typically on Fridays leading onto a Saturday game. Jim had mentioned that Jose got bumped, felt something in his chest. Immediately, they just said, "You're coming out, take it easy. Throughout the week, I guess he was sort of practicing on his own. The last bit would have been some contact testing, and it seems like he passed. So this is a game, especially on that turf, that could use a little Jose Martinez, though. Like I asked Jim, kind of jokingly, would love to see a Damian Lowe on the 6 at some point this season. Is it at Charlotte on turf with a little bit of water? I'm not sure. But I want to see Damian just shuttle up and down, burn bridges left and right.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned Jack McGlynn, and again, I missed almost all the game. I caught some of the replay, but my week's been kind of crazy. But early on, and again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but within the first 25 minutes, I thought Leon Flock made his presence felt. I know sure. Dave's a big Leon Flock guy.
He's got a tattoo.
He does. He has it right across his check, just as Flock, and it just, you can pronounce in the British way if you want. And Jillian, hello. Thanks for joining us. And Vince, our good friend Vince, says
what up,
hello as well.
Vince?
McGlynn in the midfield maestro role is a game changer. Listen, I have been a Flock, not hater, but a doubter over the year and a half because of his offensive ability. But we have mentioned a few times already that Jose Martinez has been off this season. It's been just he's been making mistakes. I feel like Flock is bringing a very strong defensive presence to a team that needs it desperately right now. And he was very active as well. So to your point, Jose, I don't think you're going to see Damian. I think Jim's going to go back to Leon in the 6, if anything, after what we saw against New England. But I don't know, Dave or Jose, either one want to chime in on what they think there. Maybe Dave, I'll go to you first.
Well, I think this is, again, I think the whole, not just as a collective, like certain players and ship, I think the whole team is just, it's just an inconsistent team. There is no consistency in this team. Perhaps bar maybe a Carranza and, a Gazdag. Like, this team isn't a consistent team. I think it's been shown with the, start the season slow, and then you had that really good mini purple patch where they sort of went from towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference straight to the top, and we were talking probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago, like, wow, they've got 2 games in hand on Miami. They're only a point behind them. Like, this team could, out of nowhere, be really good, and they go on like a 6-game, 7-game winless run. And I think that just encapsulates the whole team this year, perhaps not just a couple of individuals. But yeah, I think midfield as well this year. I think you can see certain players like, I mean, McGlynn, as Jose alluded to as well, really came in and changed. I think he did change the game. I think, instantly involved when he came into the game, and I guess that first goal, what a peach of a ball for the first goal. And I think, as you mentioned, Mike, as well, like having a player like Leon Flott come back in who, in the sort of something that the Union are in, no disrespect to Jose Martinez, but perhaps a more comfortable figure, and perhaps a more, just a simple player who isn't as erratic as a Jose Martinez, who you never know what he's going to do. Like, I mean, I know how angry Jose was at the the game they lost against, I think was it Orlando? Was it the Orlando
Seattle?
game?
Seattle, where he tweeted from halftime.
Yep.
What game was it where he was at fault for 2 of the goals?
Oh, shit. Well, Seattle was one of them.
Yeah, I think it was
he
the
gave
Orlando.
the ball to Rui Diaz.
That was it. That was the game. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like that sort of a rack thing where, you get the ball back or you win a free kick and he just instantly, like, he'll do something stupid where perhaps Leon Clark will get the ball and he would literally pass it 5 yards instead of, trying to do a roulette and trying to beat 3 players on the edge of your own penalty area. Perhaps I think when you're in that slump and you do need to win, sometimes you need more conservative players, more, I was going to say trustworthy, because Jose Martinez has been a very trustworthy player, but a player who's going to keep it simple, a player that you know exactly what he's going to do in certain situations, as opposed to, as good as Jose Martinez is, again, we've seen it in countless situations where perhaps he does the wrong thing at the wrong time, and in the past, okay, it's great the Union have defensively been good enough where they can bail themselves out, but this season, clearly,
that's a good point.
They're nowhere near good enough to bail themselves out of a Jose Martinez mistake. And perhaps, I know he's not on the injury report for this game, but would it be the worst thing in the world to give him perhaps another game off to get himself 100% fit and, perhaps keep that same sort of midfield that was in there from when he went off against the Revs to, try and keep some momentum and some continuity going against Charlotte?
And you know what, though? And before Jose, I shoot to you, I mean, I feel like we talk about complacency in sports a lot, right? And I do think that the Union have this issue where there's not real competition behind the starters. I mean, truly, Ua Carranza are not going to get beaten out by Donovan and Baribo. Maybe you can argue Quinn Sullivan Bedoya, but I think that's more so they kind of go together well at different times. But there's not a whole lot of competition. I think there's real competition behind Jose Martinez now, more than there ever has been in the last couple of years. And to your point, Dave, you're absolutely right. When your team is just defensively stout from top to bottom, there is no fear that Jose Martinez makes a mistake. Now, like, he touches the ball, and I'm worried about what's going to happen because he's just too careless by his 18 box. But that's also not new. Martinez has been that way for a while now. He just, again, hasn't been as costly with these mistakes. So I do want to see Leon there. Maybe not just because, to the comments, he's playing like a chicken with his head cut off. He's playing like a man possessed. All these great comments are coming in, but I think it's good for Jose to feel, pressure against him. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, with Leon, first and foremost, I think it gets lost on people as well that this, for all the complaining and disbelief and in the franchise, the team ownership of buying new players, Leon is the most roundabout way to say that the Union got a new player into the season, right? Because of being away for, I think before he got his first game back, it was like 9 months since his surgery, and then he had the pectoral, which is, again, like a football injury that he picked up in practice, I think, like the first week of preseason or whatever. So this essentially is a brand new signing for the team for the season. Though his emergence does make you question in a way, and I know when they're not playing, you want to see him playing, but where does Jesus Bueno fit in this team now, right? brand new contract extension over the offseason. Has not seen the field a whole lot. He was on the field against Seattle, but because he started the game against Seattle during the rain out, I think in any other situation, Jim may not have picked him because of whatever reason. So to me, that's sort of where I go with Leon, and I'm very happy that he's back. I'm very happy that he took advantage again, a man up against New England, and honestly, like. I could have sworn I was watching Pirlo pinging balls left and right the way that he was playing, because he was finding his passes, he was completing his passes, and you can't ask for much more than that from someone like him. In regards to Martinez, yeah, he had Flock had an 82% pass accuracy on the match against New England, which is pretty high for him, especially that many touches. He's usually one that's putting out fires,
I'd say so.
running left and right, getting the mileage under his feet, under his legs. But in terms of Jose and the depth, and this is something that I believe we've talked about out loud here, as well as in our group chat and behind the scenes, but this is genuinely a team that the first 11 on their day, all firing at all cylinders, and I know it's cliche, you could say the same for any team, on their day, this team can beat anybody. But once you get past that 11th, maybe 12th or 13th player, you go from genuine Valerie, thank you. You go from MLS talent to MLS Next Pro talent, right? Like you go from Donovan, which Vince loves, and I've come to appreciate the guy because he shows up when it matters most. You think about the goal against Red Bulls, you think about what he did again, Leagues Cup and etc. But then you go into, okay, who's coming up next? Is it Ngabo, who has not seen the field except MLS Next Pro? Is it Nick Pariano? Who is next, right? Because we're not going to see Ty Baribo in any real shape or form, In fact, I'm convinced that Baribo would be a great candidate, as awful as it sounds, to buy out the contract, free up $700,000 worth of salary, toss it all at Julian Carranza, and try to make a formidable bid to keep him in for the future. So I worry about that depth because, again, flashback to 2022, Kyle, Jillian were there. I don't know if Vince was there. Many, many people traveled to watch the MLS Cup final, but that team was genuinely 2 minutes away and one quality sub away from hoisting and holding MLS Cup over their head. And unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be. I always go back to that image that's seared in my brain of Gareth Bale coming in, Chris Donovan coming in as substitutes in that game.
Didn't you replace Corey Burke?
Yeah, because Corey Burke broke the goalkeeper's leg.
Yes,
leg, yes. Shattered his own leg at the same time.
But it was one of those like, this is a prime example of the dichotomy or like the difference of two approaches and just how far they've gotten. And as Kevin Kincaid has put it so nicely, and Dave, I'll turn it over to you as soon as I'm done here with this comment. This team has gotten so close to the peak of the mountain with the same gear over and over and over again, but they need new gear to get to the very top and plant the flag. And unfortunately, that's just not happening.
I'm going to say it's not the same gear. And I'll shoot at Dave first before I chime in on that, because I think this is important for Leon Flock's presence in the lineup. But Dave, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, in terms of Jose, I mean, you're talking about, like, again, not the whole same gear, same team point. And you look at most of the team, well, the majority of this team, or even perhaps the players that are starting consistently, these are players that have been there for, like, I mean, you look at this team, like, they haven't retooled, but in three and a half years. I think the last signing that you could argue that they made a major, well, has actually come into, excluding Sam next. It's not like Sam was a major upgrade over Andre Blake. Okay, he's come in, he's done a good job, as a backup goalkeeper when he's been called upon. But like, in terms of actual outfield players, like players that the unit brought in, and you can look at and go, okay, he has made a stamp on the team. It's Mikel Uwa. What was that, 2.5 years ago?
At this point,
this team's not made an actual major signing or an impact signing in 2.5 seasons. I mean, no disrespect to Damien Lowe as well, but do you know what I mean? But Damien Lowe just falls into that category of another one of the players that is in the rotation or a journeyman. He's in. Do you know what I mean?
He's a journeyman. Yeah.
No one that gets makes you stand up and go, oh, the Union has signed this guy. I mean, perhaps Pereira or Torres last year, you thought, oh, we've seen Torres play in the MLS. He's you know the ability and skill he's got. He played probably started about 3 games, and when he did come in to make an impact, his reward was back on the bench and 3 minutes at the end of the game, which you perhaps wouldn't have got if you didn't play that game. Like again,
that's the Union way.
But I think it lose to the point as well. Like I mean, just people perhaps have been on the same page. Like the Jesus Bueno contract extension. I know perhaps that's what Ernst Tanner wanted, but did Jim Curtin want Jesus Bueno to get a contract extension or to have his contract extended and to have him stay with the club? I'm not trying to create any tension here and say this is, but I mean, again, is the GM and the head coach on the same wavelength? Because we've seen time and time again with players brought in, signings, as such. They're just not, are they? I mean, again, like proven last season, and then you look at this year with the players that are brought in. I'm sure Jim Coe would have loved perhaps another midfielder and another striker, just to bolster the thing. No disrespect to Marcus Anderson, who's like
I was going to say we got Marcus Anderson from the 3rd division of Spain.
No disrespect to him. Obviously, he's a project piece. I mean, great. I mean, now you've got us like. Now the only hope is that perhaps the only player that can improve his team is a 14-year-old. And I'm not sound harsh. That is tragic. That's tragic.
That's
You're
a big ask
on a kid that can't drive. I mean, I don't know what grade he'd be in for you. What school year he'd be in?
A freshman in high school.
I think a freshman in high school. That is what you're hanging your hopes on as a guy that could come in and make an impact this season. I mean, you got Ngabo, who again perhaps came to the team with, people probably looked and thought, he could be an exciting sign if he gets minutes. But again, he's playing on the MLS Next Pro at the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's like 18, 19 years old.
Who are at top of the table, by the way. The Union, too, are doing extremely well. And a lot of the reason because it's Ngabo and Westfield and Donovan doing well. I think he scored a brace out in New England. That's one team to keep a look out. Our second team is doing really well right now, which is very impressive stuff.
But I think again, I was going to say again, perhaps again, as you sort of alluded to, the second team and they're doing really well. But again, is there a real a pathway through for those players actually come into the team? I know we've obviously seen certain players like Nate Harriel come in, but you guys might know better than me. Was Nate Harriel a consistent member of that Union 2 team before he came into the first team? Because if he was great, I think. I mean, again, then there needs to be that path, for this group of players to then make their way into the team. And if that is the way that the Union are hoping to make the next stars and players, and then fair enough, that then needs to be outlined as, okay, we're looking for more future players. But again, at the same time, you're looking at LAFC and, they're bringing in Hugo Lloris and they're bringing in, Olivier Giroud and all these other exciting players. I mean, the Union, since the MLS Cup, haven't actually made a signing that you could hang your cap on and say, wow. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the most frustrating thing. I think you could.
Jose, cue up team vaguely complain about ownership spend folder you have. See, here's the thing. Jose, I think everybody's mentioning this team is running it back, which they are. They've ran it back now 3 consecutive years. It's to your points, Dave and Jose. They haven't added a signing really that's of serious magnitude, right? We've had these small ones in between. But this is not the same team that we've seen over the last 3 seasons. The reason why I say is because this team can actually score goals at a consistent basis. I mean, there's no fear of them not being able to score 1 or 2 goals a game, which was never the case before. So when you had that problem for the last 2 years, Leon Flock being in your lineup every single week was, in theory, a problem because, yes, you were extremely stout defensively, but he could create nothing offensively. And I think one of the credits to our offensive outbursts is the fact that Jack McGlynn is becoming a true starter in MLS. He's obviously showing that he can make the Olympic squad. Nathan Harriel is becoming what Kyle Almany and I thought Olivier Mbaiza would be on the right back side. And he compliments Kai on the opposite side so well because, listen, Dave, you said this, I think, a year and a half ago. The Union were so predictable because that they were just going to go down the left side. They didn't have a backup plan. It was predictable. This team now can go on both ends, especially with the emergence of Quinn Sullivan, with Bedoya doing so well, et cetera. So you have all these offensive weapons in place, and you have Carranza scoring well. You have Gazak scoring an open play. Yes, it's the same lineup, but this is not the same team. So when Jim says these are uncharacteristic performances, this is not, you have to shake the fact that was who you were. This is not who you are anymore. This is an offensive-minded squad who needs to possess the ball, who needs to create chances, who needs to find the spacing, who needs to have all these attackers in place and send up your center backs and send up Nathan Harriel. But that means that Leon Flock has to be in your formation every single week. If Jose Martinez is not going to be defensively stout and he's going to be careless, then Jose Martinez should be on the bench. And Leon Flock has to be the guy who saves you every single week.
Listen, I think the last thing I want to chime in before we maybe start moving on towards Charlotte, because I want to be mindful of everybody's Friday night.
Yes.
Is I have no information whatsoever. I'm just honestly in my brain piecing it together. I am convinced, and this goes to, again, talking about depth and talking about spending and talking about maybe the lack of desire to spending and just finding other ways to do it. But the union, with the rule changes that are coming over the summer that are all but confirmed, obviously it's still reported by the Athletic in terms of decoupling the number of under 22 designated players, or whatever you want to call it, the U22 initiative, which currently Macania, a player who only scored his first goal ever for MLS Next Pro, who is making over $110,000 more than Quinn Sullivan, is a part of. With the new rules, there's going to be some more leverage in terms of what the union can do in terms of having more U22 players, or some flexibility nonetheless. I am convinced, and this is a big bummer, and to me a net neutral, not even a net gain, because I really do think that they're ready to fly and move on. I am convinced that the union are going to offer Jack McGlynn and Quinn Sullivan a U22 contract to pay them more money, take a lower hit on the budget, lock them in for 2 years, 3 years, who knows, a U22 contract, when in reality, that mechanism should be used the way that Miami has used it, to bring in rare, young, international talent that can add, not necessarily shift players from paying them very little as homegrowns to paying them more as U22 players in MLS. I personally see it as a net neutral. I think, as I asked Jim last weekend after the match, Jack should be going to Europe. He is ready with that left foot at his. Might not be the most athletic, but he's ready to take that next step. Nate, I think, is gonna stay, and he's got his contract or whatever. But Quinn only making $150K per year, that is mind blowing to me, considering what is reported that his younger brother is making on average at $500K. Never mind what he's doing compared to, again, Macania making $264K per year playing MLS Next Pro. So I again, just sort of in my brain, I'm bracing for disappointment when in reality a U22 initiative should be used to bring in rare talent that's just unbelievably young that you're taking a chance on, instead of, again, shifting players from one piece of the roster to a different little bucket where they can make more money but count for less. Just my 2 cents. And again, no information whatsoever, just genuinely speaking out loud as how they keep this on the cheap, if that makes sense.
Well, that is the
awkward silence. I'm sorry.
Cheap. And T-Mac mentioned, just no, it's no, you're good, man. These comments are great, by the way. And Todd, hello, thanks for joining us. Todd from the Free Kick. Always like to see Todd in the comments. I worry that Carranza leaves, and we've already talked about this before. Why not offer Carranza? You have to offer Carranza something, right? I just worry that he leaves, and then this whole season goes to crap. And then you're losing McGlynn, and then you're losing Quinn, and you're probably going to lose, X, Y, and Z player after that. The future's not really that bright for the Union right now, assuming that everybody does leave. But anyway, to your point, Jose, let's get to Charlotte. So we're on the road this week again. I know you spoke with the Mint City Collective, Jose, this past week as well. Can you share their thoughts on the game, their thoughts on the team, and any sort of little fun facts you picked out from that show?
Oh, I mean, Charlotte's on a good bounce here. There's no denying that they sort of they're getting the new manager bounce after maybe a few dodgy or a slightly slow start. But this is a team that's no joke, right? Especially when you look at only allowing 13 goals all season. So defensively, they're sound so far. That's less than a goal per game, which is obviously very, very good. And they had some trouncing, so it's not like they are, they're allowing a goal every season. I think that the big one that stilts it, if I remember correctly, is they just got beat recently. It was a pretty bad beating that they took earlier in the season. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, they're doing well. They're squeaking games 1-0, 2-0, that type of thing. 3-0 against Minnesota is the big one that they lost. That's really slanting that record there. But all in all, they're a fine team. And again, we're not as fans and as press members used to anymore. And granted, don't want it to get lost on anybody. It's still the first quarter going into the first half of the season. I don't think Union fans of late are used to looking up at the table, right? To look up and see the Charlottes of the world, Toronto as well. Never mind both New York City teams is sort of shocking in the East. So I think it's going to be a game where it's who shows up really, because this is a location where the Union have not had a lot of luck, right? Either drawing or barely squeaking a draw, I should say, or getting demolished 4-0, which is what happened in 2022. So it's going to be a tough game. Never mind playing on a surface that they're not used to, though. Jim did mention during the press conference that they did do some work on artificial surfaces to sort of make sure that they're used to that and not going into it and be shocked by it, if that makes any sense, which I always thought was kind of goofy. So I'm glad that they reverted that. I think of myself in high school, like, if we knew that we were going to play against artificial turf, we practice on artificial turf for like 2 days before the game just to get used to the pace. It's so different. So glad that they sorted that out and the players came around about it, because I think Jim mentioned once or twice that it was really up to the players if they wanted to. Obviously, that comes with its own dangers of playing on artificial turf. So I myself, I'm happy that they're doing it, but nonetheless, it should be an exciting match. Hopefully, weather holds out and it's a nice evening for everybody involved. It can't bat an eye or blink or not acknowledge a stadium that typically gets 40,000 people. That should be very, very exciting for everybody.
That's a good crowd. Dave, you're being asked by both Todd and Kyle. That's why I left
who the hell is Josh Andrews?
What are your thoughts on Josh Andrews? Any thoughts on him?
I presume this is Gillingham striker Josh Andrews.
From the Gills, right?
I don't know. There's some random American guy with the same name. Quick, just before we go on to that Jose's point again, I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it, really? We were talking about, playing the different sort of surfaces and artificial fields or pitches in America. I mean, like, if the Union go into Charlotte and win on another artificial field, having, failed to win 4 games at home on the typical grass pitch, I mean, like...
They did it at Portland.
Again, they did it at Portland as well. I mean, like...
And they did it at Portland, that's right.
It's still got a better record on artificial fields than they've got on their own home pitch. I mean, like...
And Atlanta, they drew at Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay,
yes,
I did see Todd's thing, man. I was like, what in the world's Todd? I mean, what are my thoughts on Josh Andrews? I mean, a solid striker. I mean, from what I saw, a limited amount of time last season because he came to Gills with an injury. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he and Elliot Levitt can do up front next season.
There you go. You get some Gillingham talking here, Dave.
Josh
We're trying to include you more and more. I should have worn my shirt today.
The future.
I know. I was like, who the hell is this guy? I was like, Dave must know. The future. So yeah, the artificial turf doesn't scare me as much this season, especially with how well we're scoring. But let's talk about the matchup itself. To your point, Jose, you're right. Charlotte has not really been scoring a lot of goals lately. I'm about to pull up the last couple games just so for reference. So bear with me 1 second here. The last 3 games, Charlotte has scored 0 goals against LA Galaxy in a 0-0 draw. They beat Chicago 1-0. They beat Nashville 1-0, and they beat Portland 2-0. So they've had 4 shutouts in the last 4 games, which is actually fairly impressive. The last time they've been scored on was, bear with me here 1 second, the 2-1 loss at
while you look that up,
NYC. Yeah, go ahead.
Their center back, I'm looking the name. Where is their name? I don't know why I'm looking at Toronto, but their center back has recently been a little bit of a talk of the town.
Oh,
Malanda, Adelson Malanda, French,
okay.
22-year-old, 6'3". Supposedly some interest from abroad for him, though Charlotte was very open to say not for sale.
Okay. I mean, again, I
Not
think
for sale.
if
Interesting.
well, the way that Charlotte played this
Jose,
year, I
also
think
you're being asked.
Oh, sorry, Mike. So I think Charlotte. I mean, the way that Charlotte are playing the season
No, it's
defensively,
okay.
you'd be stupid. You'd be stupid to get rid of arguably, probably as you were sort of alluding to, Jose, probably arguably your best defensive player when you are in with a solid shout of not only securing a playoff spot, but potentially finishing higher up the Eastern Conference. Getting getting at least one home playoff game.
Yeah, the Union are only 6 points back from NYC. But Jose, real quick before we continue on Charlotte, your thoughts on Berdesio and his call-up?
Yeah, I posted about this. It was sort of lifted up to me by somebody else who follows Bolivian soccer, and they asked me for my thoughts, and I was honestly just in awe. And now I know what it feels like to be, an American or Dave, a Brit, but obviously with like the Union, seeing the Aronson brothers, Mark McKenzie, all the rest, seeing all these players go and represent their national team, it's to me it was just sort of like a moment of this is really cool to see Philadelphia Union being represented within the Bolivian national team. Is he gonna get playing time against Mexico? I don't know. Is he gonna get playing time against Ecuador at Subaru Park, which I plan to be there? I don't know, but nonetheless,
Awesome.
to me it was very much. I don't know. I choked up a little bit. I sent it to my dad. Just like, can you believe this? Someone who plays right under my nose, though, I've been guilty of not showing up to any U22 games, Union 2 games this season, though I really absolutely have to. I owe it to Marlon before he's gone, because God forbid he's way too good for MLS Next Pro. It's a cool feeling. It's a really, really cool feeling to see Bolivian to Philadelphia Union sort of like, line up finally to something. But no, thank you, whoever asked. I think it was Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah, Kyle and T-Mac. So let's go back to the Charlotte game. I just posted what Kyle said about the Charlotte's defensive stats. So across the board, just looking at the total goals against, etc. The Union have scored 25 goals this season. Charlotte has scored 14. Union have given up 21 goals, and Charlotte has given up 13. Again, they haven't let up a goal since the NYCFC match, which was 5 games ago. This is probably the most defensive stout team we've seen so far this season. I can't think of another game where we were worried about scoring. So to the point, I guess, of the formation and the lineup, what do you think the lineup-wise with Dave? I mean, any sort of significant changes? Do you go back to what we saw at New England with Leon in the 6 and McGlynn on the left? How would you put a formation up against a team that's really not giving up any goals at all?
I think it's an interesting one, obviously, because you could easily make the argument of, that set of 11 players or that set of players, were the reason why they scored 3 goals on New England. But I mean, I guess at the same time, you can then say that it was against 10 men. I mean, it's tough one to call. Personally, I probably would go with the same, with that 11, that, the 11 players that, run the field after the Jose Martinez substitution and, play Flack in the 6, McGlynn on the left side of the diamond. And then again, you've got someone like Quinn Sullivan who you can bring off the bench if you needed a goal. I mean, I thought he looked very good when he came on Saturday, and his substitute cameo had a couple of chances. And in fact, his well-timed run and shot led to Gazdag second goal and Union's third. So I mean, for me, I think I would probably stick with that 11. Well, with the 11 players that are on the field from the McGlynn substitution onwards, and then you've got a player like Sullivan, and you can bring off the bench if you do need a goal.
Awesome. Jose, how about yourself?
I think it'll be very similar, much to what you're describing, Mike. Though I think again, we talk about Jim's preference and his starting 11. I think Martinez will get the start and finish the game rather than be substituted out or anything like that. So I think Leon finds himself as the odd man out because I think Jim mentioned it after the match against New England, but Jack was going to be featuring in some way, shape, or form during that match. It was just getting him some rest. I don't think the intention was ever for him to come in the 23rd, 24th minute, though it worked out very well for him. Looked like a genius. But I do imagine that Jack starts over Leon. Martinez comes in like he was. But I do think that Bedoya steps aside, and maybe that's where Quinn comes in. I mean, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how he goes about that, though. With low back, I wonder if Jim sees this, and he's talked about it too, how he sort of sees his center backs pairing per match rather than his starting 11, right? He rotates them in that way of preparing for the best matchup on the night. I wonder if Low is the best matchup on the night, considering how fast that game's going to move on the artificial turf, and the guy's like a gazelle. He is unbelievably fast. So I could see Jim trying to take advantage of those strides on that slick turf that I'm sure, or artificial surface that I'm sure, much like Atlanta, for some reason they water anyways. So it'll be really fascinating to see what Jim decides to do.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, as you sort of alluded to there, like again, I should say, I think Jim's like, we always come up with like these theories, potential lineups every week, thinking, Jim might surprise us. And he might shock us in a way and be like, I'm going to make 6 changes. I'll make 2 changes here, but I'm going to change the system. When, no disrespect to Jim, he probably is one of the more predictable managers in the league. Like, exactly
absolutely
what's going to happen when and where. So again, I think Jose, you're right. I think he will start Jose Martinez, and I think Jack McGlynn will start. Ali Bedoya has somehow, gone from a player who at the start of the season, before the season, he's gone from probably not even on this team to somehow being a consistent player, starting week in and week out every week again. I mean, fair play to Ali. I mean, I think he's looked better this year coming into the team than he did last season and the year before probably as well. But I mean, again, I just really want to see Jose Martinez on that right hand side.
Yes, you do. I know you do.
A more
I knew you were
advanced
going to say
position.
that.
And I just think, again, as we alluded to earlier on the show, like when his defensive lapses and concentration and his, having his moments have been more costly this year because the Union aren't as good defensively and are much more frail at the back. I mean, Glasnes isn't having as good of a year. Elliott and Lowe aren't playing as well. And again, defensively, I don't think the fullbacks have been that good either. I mean, no disrespect to Nate Harry or Kai Magnan, great going forward, but again, there's just so many gaps and holes in between the Union fullbacks where you worry. I mean, and again, when Jose is in that six and older midfield role, he can't take as many liberties. And I feel like if he is out wide or in a more advanced position where, if he did lose the ball, you've perhaps got a holding midfielder, but that's Bueno or, Leon Flark, whoever's playing in that 6 role. And, he's got that bit more protection. Then he's got the right back behind him as well. So he's got more players around him who could perhaps cover for him if he did make a mistake. I just really want to see Jose playing a more advanced role because I think he's probably one of the best ball carriers the team has as well. Sorry to written on by Jose Martinez in the 8 propaganda, but I just think again, I think it's just defensively this year. Like there was a couple of moments in the New England game as well. Defensively for this team, we just thought, ooh, that didn't look good. I think there was the one chance immediately from the first goal where that cross came in, and I think it might have been Glasnes who should have dealt with the cross, and he's just somehow managed to either miss kick it or completely miss it, and then they get the chance. And there was one chance towards the end where. It might have been towards the end of the first half as well when Nate Harriel sort of was caught on no man's land. There was a winger, there was a New England winger who was had acres of space out on the left wing. Their left wing, the Union's right side defensively, and Nate was tucked in. So again, the ball went out wide. He would have had space, and Nate's tried to close it on the ball, and it's gone straight past him. And the guys had the free run to the box. It's just a couple of instances there, where again, the team won 3-0, but it's just the same issues popping up and reoccurring every time.
Yeah, I do acknowledge everything you're saying, Dave. Though it'll be really interesting to gauge what the center back pairing is. Right.
Yeah,
Again, like, can they figure out the spacing? Can they figure out who goes up, who comes back, who? I mean, look no further of what happened at Subaru Park against New York, right, where Andres Perea gets the ball and Kai and Jack McGlynn and all the rest, Damien, are sort of caught out of position, and all it takes is one one through ball that just completely slices everything wide
yeah,
open, and there you go, there's a goal. So I'm intrigued. I think we are all intrigued onto what happens in terms of the selection. Though, to your comment of predictability, I don't want to say I don't even bother anymore, but it's hard for me to even like sit through press conferences from opposing coaches because they typically get asked like, what do you think about the Philadelphia Union? And it is the same comment every single time, where they're aggressive, they're very direct, they haven't changed a whole lot over the years, they're a good team, they're well coached. Like clockwork, every single coach sort of saying the exact same thing.
yeah,
Um, so we'll see if Jim feels adventurous, though. I'm a big proponent that he should maybe consider playing even as substitutes, or maybe being bold enough to start some guys like Bueno, who, despite being on the provisional roster for Copa America, I have a hard time seeing how he sneaks into the roster and being away for a
yeah,
month. But what I'm getting at is start pumping in some of these players that are going to be relied upon, so we don't have to hold our breath as both fans and press when we see a roster like we did against Portland, where Jeremy Raffanello is called upon to play a full 90.
yeah,
The guy has not seen a whole lot of time, right? So I hope that Jim is thoughtful about that. I'm sure he has his thoughts, and he's obviously far more qualified than you and I and Mike combined. That's for sure.
yeah,
So, though I think two things can be true, where there should be some sort of rotation and some integrating of these
yeah,
guys that just are going to be relied upon. And one that is coming back, as I just sort of hit me, June 2nd, the last game of Richard Rodada at AAB out in Denmark. Team just got promoted to the first division of Danish soccer. So congratulations to Richard and the team. Though June 2nd, he comes back, or that's his last match. So who knows what the future holds. Jim was not really forthcoming or excited in a way, in the way he answered when I asked him about it. So who knows where he fits in the whole puzzle that is the Union, though. The Union will have to figure out what to do with him. I
yeah.
sense MLS Next Pro, but who knows? We have some more comments here, Dave, that we can punch in and sort of start wrapping up as we approach the 50-minute mark. Let's see. T-Mac asks, would like to see, or comments, I should say, would like to see Lowe at the 6 as an experiment, like he's done with Jamaica. I feel like his brain dead errors wouldn't hurt as bad there as compared to center back. That would be very, very interesting as well. TMAC 803210. That is not your zip code, so I don't know what that number string is. But it would be interesting, because you're right. I think removing him from being the last line of defense and allowing him to have that creativity would be interesting. I don't know how you
Yeah.
feel about that, Dave. I'm guessing you probably
I think
sense the same.
I mean we've seen Jack Elliott playing the 6 as well. But I think
Yep.
perhaps Damien Lowe. I mean, we've seen like Damien does like to go on a more adventurous runs. He sort of alluded to, be a bit more creative. Like perhaps his passing range as well in comparison to Jack and Glasner's. Perhaps is a bit more range to his passing depth and. But yeah, I mean I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it. I mean again, defensively they're so poor. There's so many laps of concentration. They're so poor at the moment. Maybe it might work. I mean, giving him that more free role to perhaps go further forward, and we've seen him making runs on the ball. Beating 3 or 4 players in the past. I mean, who knows? But I think the other thing I want to allude to as well in terms of players coming and going international tournaments. I mean, Daniel Gazdag will this or the Red Bulls game be the final game he has before he goes off to Hungary?
I don't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Maybe folks in the comments. I would think that, whatever the first game, subtract 10 days, right, for integration into a camp, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
longer. I don't know that they need
Well,
2
the
weeks.
first game is the 4th of June, so I presume it would be the Red Bulls game will probably be his final game before he goes to the tournament.
Yeah, and
No,
that's a big
Rebels,
piece.
Toronto. Sorry, Toronto. Apologize.
Yeah, that's a big piece, and I don't know if I, I like I hate to put myself in the shoes of some of these players because I know they want to play or whatever. But if I am Daniel Gastag, I maybe consider sitting out that Toronto game and maybe be a substitute, right? Save your body a little bit, try to
Yeah,
avoid injuries before going to what is frankly, I think, and I hope I'm wrong. I think we all hope I'm wrong. What is probably going to be his biggest tournament ever, right? Because hopefully Hungary qualifies for the World Cup. That would be fantastic.
yeah.
Unlikely, but fantastic.
No, I mean,
So
they won their qualification group for the Euros. To be fair to them.
totally get that, but that was totally against the grain and
Oh yeah,
very much like an anomaly per se. I don't know. I don't want to be unjust to the efforts of that team, but nonetheless, they beat England. So
yeah, they won. Yeah,
American has done it. America has done it many times, beating England at a couple of things. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting. This is another question. Sean Hughes through Facebook. Hello, Sean, and your beautiful family. Is Flock in your eyes really that far ahead of Wayno? Oh, wait, hold on. Punctuation is your friend here, my friend. Is Flock in your eyes really that far ahead of Wayno? That Wayno is buried in the bench? Hi, that's a good question, right? Wayno earning himself a brand new contract over the offseason. I think 60% more money than his previous year in terms of guaranteed dollars. So certainly a nice pay bump. Um, I, I don't know. It's hard to tell, and I think it's a good problem for Jim when you have a crowded midfield in a way that is playing so well that a guy that just got a contract extension is not able to crack in. I think that's sort of a good problem, but you also start wondering, when are you going to start playing these guys? So when, again, they start disappearing for tournaments, and Bueno could very well be disappearing for a tournament this summer.
yeah.
But if they're not, when they get plugged in, it's not a huge drop off. I don't know if you feel that same way, Dave. I don't know because I haven't seen enough this year out of Bueno.
No, I think so. I think Bruno's a reliable hand. I think he proved that last year. He did play. However, I think there's a big difference between our pecking order and Jim's pecking order. I mean, there are players that he certainly favourite. Jim's favourites are Ali Bedoya, even Jose Martinez. Like Leon Flark is one of his favourites. So I feel like if he was given the option of the two, he'd probably start Leon over Bueno. So I guess it's not a case of I guess it's more of a case of where Bueno stands in Jim's pecking order. I think as we've seen this season, I mean, the fact Leon, without playing a lot of time, well, I think he made a couple of sub appearances. I mean, one sub appearances and then went straight to the starting team. I think was it for the NYCFC game, wasn't it? He started the game against NYCFC and then he's come straight back in from his injury, really, once it's been declared fit. Whereas Bueno's been fit all season. He's been in and around the team, but he's not actually had many minutes. I think he's made 4 MLS appearances this whole season. So I think perhaps Bueno was higher up in our pecking order as fans or, outsiders, but in terms of where Jim ranks him, which is the most important, Leon's probably 5th choice midfielder in the team, probably 5th or 6th choice. Well, I guess if you put the number 10 role as its own separate position in terms of midfield, and you just had the 3, but like the 3 behind the 10, I think Leon's probably 4th choice of the midfield group. I think you could probably argue, or 3A or 3B if you put in terms of him and McLean or him and Bedoya.
I just hope he gets a chance, right? And
yeah.
If it means he goes internationally and his chances through the national team, then gosh, what an avenue to do it, right? To earn your spot within the Philadelphia Union, and you do it in Copa America against the best of South America and North America. I guess it would be awesome. So we'll see, and if it isn't through that tournament, you hope that the rotation that is needed allows him to show what he's really all about and allows him to sort of, again, display why he earned himself this new contract that has him making a heck of a lot more money than he was making. I would say a 60% pay raise is a sizable amount. But Dave, before we sign off, I know this is the Mike special here. what are your predictions for the match in terms of goals, and if you will, your goal scorers for the match?
I think I said earlier. I think I said 1-1 and Carranza, but um, I could easily see. I think draw, probably a 0-0 draw as well. I could easily see it being a 0-0. I mean, again, we sort of alluded to the Union scoring goals earlier, but I mean, Charlotte are a very stingy team. They don't give up much going defensively, but they don't also don't also score much going forward. Has been proved. I think they're the third or second lowest scorers in the Eastern Conference.
I think somewhere
Um,
up there, yeah,
yeah, they're the
or
third lowest
down there,
scorers below, well, ahead of Chicago and New England.
which is not a good mark.
No, but I mean, they're sixth in the table. They're only 2 points off NYCFC.
Winning 1-0 is the same as winning 4-0 around this time of the year.
Exactly. That's what I mean. At this time of the year, you need to keep keep getting results. Well, I guess, I mean, we could argue all year round, really. I mean, considering the league's based upon head-to-head records and all that crap. I mean, the fact the Union ended up having to go to LAFC in the MLS Cup final year because of some BS head-to-head record. I don't know how that was even decided, because the fact that LAFC had won more games over the hell it was instead of actual goals scored and goals against, whatever. Like, again, I think at this point, I guess the MLS is just wins and losses, isn't it? I guess that I think isn't goal difference like the second or third tiebreaker.
I don't even. I've tucked that away so far in the back of my head because I don't want to relive the pain of. I remember telling Mike, I will not, and I don't think I was quite as involved with the reporting as I am this year or the last 2 years. But I remember my heart sinking after the Union won the semifinal, or the conference final to then go to MLS Cup, and as soon as they won, whipping out my phone trying to buy tickets, thinking that it was going to be at Subaru Park, and then realizing, oh,
Yeah.
shit, I'm not buying a flight to Los Angeles.
Well, I was just saying, quick example of the fact, like, perhaps goals don't even matter really in this league, is the fact that Charlotte have a +1 goal difference in comparison to Columbus is +6. But quickly, do you know what I mean? Like, I'll quickly check the head-to-head record and let's see if they have played each other this year. Charlotte beat Columbus already this year in the head-to-head, so again, the goal difference doesn't really matter as long as you. As long as, I guess, if you have a better head-to-head record than teams around you, don't know if Mike, you want to put Mike's quick score prediction up.
Yeah, Mike just shared his score prediction since his internet per Mike went to shit. He is mentioning a 1-1 UA scores prediction. On my end, as we close out the show, folks, I am predicting 2-2. Carranza and I think Glesnes. I think Glesnes is going to sneak in some sort of header on a cross. One of the few that they're going to get. So we'll see what happens. Game kicks off at 7:30 tomorrow night at, what is it, Bank of America? Is that where the Panthers play, right? That's the name of the stadium. I think it is. Anyhow, they play in Charlotte. 7:30. Tune in. I will be certainly clipping videos if I can, joining the press conference after the fact. I know Mike may or may not be watching. I'm not quite sure. Dave, if you're watching live, bless you. I know you're many, many hours ahead of us. So if you stay up for it, by all means, unless you're working. Yeah. But you can follow us on Twitter at Jose R. Nunez 91, at Dave GFC Miller. And Mike is at mbarretta1323, I believe, off the top of my head. But this is Across the Pitch. Dave, any final words before we sign off for the weekend?
I'm just saying, hopefully everyone enjoys their weekend. I mean, I know, again, I'm intrigued to see how tomorrow night goes, because again, you don't really see many teams, especially in the MLS, who are as stingy defensively and as uninvolved offensively as perhaps a Charlotte. I mean, you know, the MLS is probably one of the most goal-friendly leagues in the world. You sort of see a team as stingy as that. I'm intrigued to see, you know, just how tight the game will be tomorrow. So, I mean, I think, again, in typical Union fashion, this will probably end up like 5-3 or 4-3 when we're expecting the low scoring affair. Oh, 2-2, as you predicted.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong about the 2-2. I hope it's 2-0 for the Union, but that is also a very, very difficult place to play at. On my end, thank you everybody for sharing my content, sharing AAT Sports content as we navigate through this very busy, incredibly long season. It's hard to believe that it's a quarter of the way done. It feels like it should be a little bit further than that. Obviously, Champions Cup and all the rest made it feel really long. But content-wise, like I said, follow us for the game tomorrow. And tomorrow at some point before the game, I sat down with Andrew Rick for 45 minutes to talk about his homegrown deal, his rise to the first team, his time with the academy, his time with Union 2, and just overall how he's feeling now being part of the team and for real per se after being short-term loans so often. So look out for that. It should be at some point tomorrow. But this is Across the Pitch. Thank you to all the folks who watched. Thank you to everybody who tuned in on this holiday weekend and during a Phillies game as well. We really appreciate you, and let's hope the Union win. Doop.
The Union, Doop.